I used to try making snacks whenever I had time, one here, one there, but honestly, that never worked. Life would get busy, I'd fall behind, and we end up relying on packaged snacks. This year, I decided to stop doing that. I did not want to stress about what kind of snack we're going to have every day. I wanted my kids to have something healthy. So I decided to be more intentional and prep ahead. And even then, I give myself grace when life doesn't go as planned. And honestly, this isn't about perfection. It's about doing what works for your season, and this is what works for ours. So pull up a chair, grab a cup of coffee, and let's make some snacks together. The kind that make the week feel a little bit easier. My kitchen today looks a lot different than in most of my videos because my husband had to work this weekend. So we're in North Carolina. We're a military family, so once a month he does have to work on the weekend. So that's the weekend we usually stay here in North Carolina. So I wanted today to work on making different snacks for the kiddos. Something easy that I can just either keep in the fridge or in the pantry and kind of gets them through that time between lunch and dinner time. So first I want to start off with making banana treats where we're also going to use peanut butter and a little bit of chocolate, so it's healthy but also a little bit sweet for that afternoon pick-me-up. I have melted a little bit of peanut butter, so all I'm going to do is just kind of put it on top of my bananas, and if it runs on the sides, it's okay. Usually after lunch, my kids want a little sweet treat, so this is perfect. It's healthy, it has peanut butter, banana, and just a drizzle of chocolate. Perfect treat for an afternoon pick-me-up. Bananas were in the freezer for about an hour, so now we're going to add white chocolate. And I don't want to add too much, I just want to drizzle it so it has just enough to have that a little extra sweetness to it. And I'm just putting it in a Ziploc baggie. I'm gonna cut the end and just drizzle it. Woo.
They look good.
It looks like candy, doesn't it? And should I do it?
Yeah.
Okay. Grab it and just gently squeeze and do it do it a little bit high. Okay.
Just gonna taste one.
My girls love to watch food videos with me. And over Christmas break, one of them was watching with me and she said, "Mama, why are you saving them all? It's not like you're gonna make them." And I'm like, challenge accepted. So what we're gonna do next is this Oyster sweet and salty crackers. It looked fabulous on social media recipes, so we're gonna try it out and see if it's actually as good as it looks. We're going to measure out and add 5 cups of Oyster crackers to a bowl. In a medium saucepan, combine the butter and brown sugar. Stirring consistently, bring the mixture to a boil and boil for about 2 minutes. Next, we're going to remove the mixture from the heat and we're going to stir in 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon and vanilla. You want to pour this mixture immediately on the top of the crackers. You want to use a rubber spatula and stir and coat the crackers evenly with the mixture. Let me give you a little spoiler alert. These crackers are so amazing that you actually may want to double the recipe. My kids already told me that I have to make them next time we go on a road trip. Next, you want to spread the crackers evenly onto prepared bake sheet and you want to bake for about 10 to 15 minutes at 350 until bubbly all over. While the crackers in the oven, we're going to combine regular sugar, cinnamon, and salt in a little bowl. We want to mix it together and just kind of set it aside. And while my crackers were baking, I had to just kind of pause and catch up with my dishes. My crackers were bubbling and sizzling, and the kids were right there helping me with the dishes and guarding to make sure that they were the first one to try. As soon as the crackers come out of the oven, you want to sprinkle them immediately with salt and sugar cinnamon mixture that we just made a little earlier. Let the crackers cool if you can, and then break them into pieces. Moment of truth. Let's see how they taste. They're crunchy. I can taste the sweetness. It balances with the salt. I bet adding a little bit of sea salt would elevate this recipe a step up. Let's see what kids think. How is it?
Good.
Does it taste salt? You taste the saltiness
Yes.
and sweetness?
Yes.
It's a nice balance, isn't it? Wouldn't it be something fun to take on road trips and make long car rides? Yeah. This snack was so easy to make, but I have to give you a little warning. It is so hard to just stop eating after a few crackers. This next snack is my husband's favorite. He's a hard worker who works hard to provide for our family, and the last 2 weeks he worked without any breaks, long hours, so I wanted to surprise him with his favorite treat: oatmeal carrot cake cookies. In the mixing bowl, we're going to cream 1 cup of butter, and you want to make sure that it's room temperature. 1 cup of brown sugar, 1 cup of regular sugar, and we're going to mix it until light and fluffy. Next, we're going to combine 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and we're going to mix it until everything is well combined. Then we're going to add all the dry ingredients. We're going to add 2 1/4 cup of flour, 2 cups of oats, half teaspoon of baking soda, half teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and half teaspoon of salt. And we're going to mix everything until all the ingredients are well incorporated. Before I start measuring out my wet and dry ingredients, I like to have my carrots, pecans, and raisins all prepared. And for this recipe, we will need 1.5 cups of shredded carrots, half a cup of pecans, and 1 cup of raisins. Once everything is well incorporated, the recipe suggests that we want to refrigerate the dough for at least 2 hours. I don't always have 2 hours, so a lot of times I go straight to baking my cookies, and I've never had an issue. Now, if you see your first batch is spreading, your cookies are spreading, then you definitely want to refrigerate your dough, but I've never had that issue before, so I skip that step. In between batches, while your cookies are baking, you can put your dough in the fridge to chill. They turn out perfect. They have a nice raised top. They're not flat. They didn't spread too much, so this would make a perfect cookie. While my last batch of cookies are baking, I'm gonna go ahead and make the cream cheese icing. And so easy. All it is 1 stick of butter and then 1 package of cream cheese, and we have 8 ounces here. Now, the original recipe calls for 2 cups of powdered sugar, which I find for the icing then to be a little bit too sweet to my liking. So if you're trying to make these cookies, I would start with a cup and see how you like it, because the cookie itself has a lot of sugar. So I don't like overly sweet cookies, and I feel like a cup or just like 1.25 cups is more than enough. Add more if you would like to wear your powdered sugar on you. Once cream cheese icing is ready, you want to place about 1 tablespoon of frosting on the smooth side of a cookie and then top with the smooth side of the second cookie. You want to press both sides gently together to spread the frosting out between them. My little man was trying to match the sizes of the cookies perfectly, but I really think that he wanted to be the first one to sample them. So here we have some small bikes, a toilet, and I am spotting some pretty mirror. Let's see if I can grab it. Oh, is that a mirror? Yep. Let's see if I can. Oh, and there is a picture there too. Let me grab it. I was in shock that somebody would throw away this beautiful mid-century picture. And this mirror too. And I cannot wait to find new homes for both of these items. So I pulled some things. Look at this, look like a crib. Oh, I'm shaking. I don't know what this is, but it looks cool. Then we have this beauty made in India and some china plates. So today we see that there's 2 of these tables. I'm going to pick them up and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with them yet. I've got already one loaded in the car. I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do with these side tables yet, but I was set to leave them behind. Along with this cool garden frog and some big tubs for planting in my garden. I decided to try another recipe that I saw on social media, and it is for sausage puff pastry. Unroll your puff pastry and cut it into 3 equal parts. Divide the roll of your breakfast sausage into 3 equal parts as well and start forming little logs. Place 1 log in the center of your pastry, then wrap the pastry around tightly to ensure there is no gaps, and you want to pinch down the seam to seal and then place onto the prepared baking sheet, and you want to make sure you put it face down or the seam down. Once all logs are formed, you want to place them in the fridge to chill for about 30 minutes. Preheat oven to 400, and once the logs have chilled, you want to cut them into mini sausage rolls. Next on the to-do list was recreating Russian mini pizzas that they used to serve in school back in USSR days. In the bowl, combine 300 grams of warm milk, 40 grams of sugar, and 11 grams of yeast. Mix it all together and let it stand for about 10 to 15 minutes until foamy.
I had to in Belarus learn Russian and Belarusian languages.
But how did I learn this language in it when I was a baby?
Because that's the language we talked to you. And that's how you understood. Just a little bit. Go much.
Once the yeast mixture has bloomed, you want to pour it into the mixing bowl. Next, we're going to add 30 grams of melted butter. You want to make sure that your butter is not scorching hot because we don't want to kill yeast. And then we want to add 2 eggs and about a teaspoon of tea salt. Slowly add 550 grams of flour and begin to knead until soft, sticky dough forms. It took me about 10 minutes to mix on medium-high because you want to make sure that in this particular dough, gluten is developed. This is a great example. Even though my dough looked like it has come together, I couldn't stretch it. It was tearing apart. So I put it back in the mixer and kneaded for another 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, my dough was no longer sticking to the bottom of the bowl and it also started to look shiny. I performed a stretch test and it was stretching beautifully. My dough was elastic, it was shiny, it was no longer ripping, and that means it was ready to be used. I lightly oiled my bowl and put my dough in it and just kind of got that oil around my dough so that way I can form one smooth ball. We're going to place our dough back in the bowl and cover it and let it rise in the warm spot for about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. Look at our dough. It has beautifully risen and we are ready to shape our pizzas. I was asked a really good question last week in regards to this, me sniffing the dough. I always do it after I see that it has doubled in size because if you let the dough rise for too long, it will have this sour, almost like alcohol-like smell to it. It won't be a very pleasant smell. You can still make things with it, but the texture of your bread or your dough will be a bit different. So anyway, so this one looks good. So let's go ahead and punch it down. I'm gonna
workbench down. We're gonna remove it and get to work.
Divide the dough into equal portions, and I got about 10 to 12 little buns. We're going to take one piece of dough at a time, and we're going to gently flatten it with our hands, and you want to press the center thinner, leaving the edges slightly thicker like you would like a small pizza base.
My kids asked me if I would make half of pizzas with salami and half of pizzas with just plain cheese. And I have how many pieces? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'll make 4 with salami and 4 with just plain cheese. And the coolest thing, we got this salami at Aldi. 1 piece will be enough just to plop in the middle and cover with cheese. So it would be easy peasy for me.
In the USSR and Belarus, pizza was traditionally made a little bit differently. Instead of tomato sauce, the base was spread with a mix of mayonnaise and ketchup, then topped with things like pickles, cheese, and chicken. But for my kids, I wanted more traditional American route with sauce and toppings, and I think they appreciated not having pickles on their pizza. I was so excited for my kids to try these pizzas that I kind of forgot to do a video, so I had to pull some footage from my Instagram stories. I decided to end the night with making sausage McGriddle muffins. The recipe calls for buttermilk. Since I didn't have buttermilk on hand, I ended up making my own. I used 1 cup of milk and added 1 tablespoon of lemon and let it sit for about 5 minutes. While I was waiting for my milk to sour a little bit, I cooked half a pound of ground breakfast sausage in a skillet until fully browned. Then I moved on to adding all the wet ingredients together. So in the bowl, I added 1 egg, 1 cup of buttermilk, 2 tablespoons of melted butter. You also can use neutral oil, and then 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. Mix everything together, and then we'll go ahead and add all the dry ingredients, which we will need 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then you want to mix everything together. Stir the cooked sausage right into the batter, then spoon it into the muffin tin, filling each cup nearly full. Then bake muffins at about 350 for 18 to 22 minutes or until tops are golden brown. These muffins are sweet and savory, fluffy and tender and moist, and just perfect for afternoon snack. Spending just a few hours over 2 days making these recipes from scratch was so worth it. It made my week much easier. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you next week with more recipe inspiration.